ripperdocs are a divisive sort. Pretty much everybody in Night City has been to one, be it for cosmetic reasons or simple cyberware maintenance. Cyberware is as normal in Cyberpunk as buying new clothes. As a result of how commonplace cyberware is, it's opened up some doors for chaos and carnage that otherwise wouldn't have existed as easily. You never really know who's going to go cyberpsycho next, just that, inevitably, somebody will. Some might say rippers are essential and providing that essential service, but others might say that they are conscious enablers, even hypocrites in some cases. A ripper who demonstrates the clash of these two lines of thought is Doc. Doc is a hustler, first and foremost, yet he is very clear in his warning to David. While he does love the cash that David continues to bring him, and doesn't protest when it comes to doing his job, Doc tells David that he should stop. Doc is a benevolent devil, one that demonstrates an abnormal degree of transparency. Yet, while he won't trip you up, he will ultimately let you trip yourself. Doc and David have a sort of Faustian dynamic. A Faustian story is a story that focuses on a dangerous bargain made with an otherworldly figure. The people who make these bargains always start off enjoying their returns until what they wanted leads to a not-so-good ending for them. The only difference is, Doc is not a villain, per se. He is just a guy plying his trade. Somebody actually pointed out in my community comments that Doc is more of a Cassandra archetype, which is a very good point. A Cassandra is a character whose warnings about a very real and terrible future are routinely ignored until, of course, their warnings come true. From the lighting of his scenes all the way to his character design, Doc is something of a warning himself, not just to David, but to us. Doc is framed almost like a demon or a creepy entity dwindling his fingers. It's almost played in a comedic way, but the seediness he displays is more than just a gimmick. Cyberware is a game of chance. No one ever really knows what implant is going to tip them over the edge. From the very beginning of Edgerunners, this is made incredibly clear from that braindance that Doc gave to David. David, of course, thinks it's crazy and amazing, captivated by this sheer display of power. So much so that he is blind to just the nature of a cyberpsycho. Whereas Doc is well aware of what goes into creating a cyberpsycho, as rippers tend to be a crucial part of that process. But what helps Doc avoid confronting that truth, at least for most of the show, is the fact that he's making money off it, using David to actually sell the XPDs that he gets to other students at Arasaka Academy. Already, Doc is introducing us, the viewers, to the dangerous temptation that David feels as a powerless kid in Night City. He's kind of dangling the ending before our eyes, even right down to the setting of Arasaka Tower. This braindance is just the first of many warnings that Doc gives to David. When David's mother dies, Doc is hardly sympathetic. He's still a businessman, and he doesn't care very much about this kid who used to hustle XBDs for him. When David proposes that Doc install his infamous Sandevistan, Doc tried to warn him that he would not be able to outrun the long-term effects of it. The only reason Doc agrees to install it for free is because of the promise that David makes to him, that when David realizes that he cannot handle the Sandy, he will give the implant to Doc for free. But like any Faustian type story or character, there is a catch. Doc purposefully omits any information about the immunoblockers that David would need, especially after getting a surgery as big as a Sandevistan. But Doc, to his credit, has a degree of integrity. He takes Lucy's money up front in exchange for the medicine, even if that means he has to wait a bit longer for the Sandevistan. This does set him apart from the scav in the ambulance who was willing to kill David to take the Sandevistan from him. Doc is at least going to give him a fair shake. While Doc does manipulate and talk around and leave out certain essential information, he still does not lie to David. Doc is actually the character who first flashes the gun that is Adam Smasher, in his warning to David some months later. This conversation establishes Adam Smasher as the technical peak of cybernetic enhancement, something that David aspires to. But in the same statement, Doc is also warning David of what that will cost him. He clearly communicates to David, more so than any other character in the show, that he needs to slow down his implants or truly risk his sanity. But David brushes him off. David is a sort of cash cow for Doc, but even he must know that this can't last forever. But the other side of that is that there is a degree of familiarity there between David and Doc. Doc is the character who has known David the longest in the show, aside from his mother. Doc is fascinating to me in this sense because he is two different ideas and mindsets sort of clashing here. He is just out to make eddies, which is understandable, but despite his slimy, creepy personality, he still gives a fair warning to the person he's doing this damning work on. He still shows some degree of care, at least to David. And I think this ultimately demonstrates that under the skin of this devilish scoundrel is a decent human who's simply had to survive in Night City for way too long. So long that I think he spent enough of his professional life detaching his own morals in order to get the eddies he needs to survive. His words of warning for David are his own form of struggle between the callousness of the city and the plain observation of a good kid going down a bad road that you have kind of paved for him in a way. And Doc does end up getting that last word, as he is eventually proven right. But by the time this realization occurs, it is already too late to save David. David attacks Doc after finally succumbing to all the chrome he's been getting in recent months. This happens after Doc is teasing David in a way that he normally does. It's sort of his way of being friendly. But for David, in his unstable state, being forced to come face to face with the fact that he is not all that special after all, it is too much for him to bear. From the very beginning, what Doc was saying was the truth. It just took a year or so for that truth to finally arrive. A thing to note is that Doc didn't even get mad at David. He gave him immunoblockers for free and sent him on his way. In the beginning, when Doc would mention David's incoming cyberpsychosis, he would do so in a very lackadaisic, almost humorous way. He was even willing to help speed things up to get what he wanted. Now, after all these months with David, and a kid that he has known for years, Doc is almost regretful. There's not even a mention of Doc getting the Sandy when David meets his end. He doesn't even bring it up. All Doc says is that David's story will be a tale for the next dreamer. Doc realizes that this once innocent kid that he's built up over the years is finally approaching the fate he had long predicted. And in a way, it's because of him too. Although you could easily argue that David could go to any other Ripper, but still. I do believe that Doc feels a degree of personal responsibility that he has spent years avoiding. I think that David formed at least a momentary bridge between the cold salesman half of Doc and the person. The part of him that justifies his trade as simply providing a service finally shakes hands with the side of him that recognizes his own hand in helping to usher this kid and others like him to his early grave. In telling David that he will just be another story for the next kid who gets a big idea. I think there's an implication here that this isn't the first time Doc has seen this happen. But after Doc picks himself up and reassembles that cold salesman that he is, David certainly will not be the last. Thank you very, very much for watching this one, guys. It was another short one, but I wanted to do it. And I think at this point I have tackled everybody from Edgerunners that I want to. I love the vibes of any scene that Doc and David are together. In Doc's lab, it feels like a pocket realm, and I think that's the lighting, but it just feels like David has taken a little trip to a demonic pocket realm where he's sinking deeper and deeper into the madness that will inevitably consume him. Doc is a creepy guy, and the show did a really good job making him so, but at the same time, I enjoy that bit of development or vulnerability that we see, but I also like the idea that he really won't change. He'll just continue doing what he's doing. I want to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. A huge thank you to Mika, Lock Proposals Big Day Out, the Me Cool Arrest 001, and the Hot Dog Man. The Hot Dog Man. I saw your name and I cackled. Thank you very, very much for watching, guys. You guys are awesome. I will see you again in the next video. Goodbye!